I'm Fatheree.
This is Dave.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
So welcome back to the Starship Texas for the 52nd installment of the Tex-Trek podcast. We're actually set up in front of the view screen in the living room on the Starship, ready to watch Season 2 of Discovery.
Yeah, I see you've got your models of past Star Trek ships and various alien vessels up there.
Yeah.
It's weird that I would call them Star Trek when we, in fact, are ourselves trekking through the stars, but that's just a thing I do.
Yeah, this is in our holodeck.
Right.
For those of you watching on YouTube.
Yeah, we're trying out some early 21st century decor.
Well, this is how we watched Season 1 of Discovery.
It's true.
So we're just keeping it in continuity with ourselves.
Just keeping it real.
But yeah, so this is 2019. This is a new year.
Yeah.
A new year for Tex-Trek, a new year for Star Trek, and the second season of Discovery is almost upon us.
I would like to thank the people for sticking with us all this time.
Yeah, for making it through 52
We're going to make 2019
podcasts.
the most awesome, the most Texan year ever for Star Trek, from our perspective.
I think this is actually, it could easily be like a really big year for us if we're getting that Picard show in the fall.
That's true.
And another season of Discovery, both in the same year.
Hell yeah.
We don't know for sure if Picard show, whatever it's going to be called, is going to come out in the fall. I was thinking it wouldn't come out until early next year, but according to the folks at CBS, they're trying to get it out this year, so we'll see.
Okay.
But
let's tell them what our topic is.
So our topic, we are actually going to be running through a top 10 wish list for Season 2 of Discovery.
Yes.
Things that Dave and I both want to see. We've both put together a list.
Yep.
We did the same thing last year for Season 1. And we don't know what is on the other guy's list. We have no idea.
Right. This is going to be interesting because, like, even they might be different types of lists. Like, you may be like, I want to see more of this particular starship because you're such a freak for that kind of stuff. And I'll be like, I'd like to see more nuanced portrayals of same-sex marriages.
Yeah, so we don't know who is going vague, who's going specific, how much overlap there will be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the night, we will have both put out our top 10 things we hope to see.
It's going to be exciting. And I expect we're going to hit some overlap, probably.
Yeah, and we did last year. We're actually, before we get into Season 2, we're going to go through what our lists from Season 1 are and see what we got, what we didn't get.
Let's travel back in time and see what the naive Dave and Fatheree of, what was it, 2016?
It was September of 2017.
So 2017, right. What were we thinking back then? What magical dreams did we have of what Discovery could be?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through these. So if you're wondering what I'm looking at, if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at the notes here. But I'll do mine first.
What's the name of the little alien that Scotty's...
Keenzer from the Kelvin movies.
When he looks down, Keenzer is down there holding up notes for him. He's just got a little iPad kind of thing. So anyway, you can't see it, but he's there.
So I'm going to go through my 10 for Season 1, and then I'll go through Dave's.
All right.
So I had at number 10, I wanted cool episode titles.
We got that.
Number 9.
Are we going to assess these real quick as we got them? You got it.
Yeah. So we had that. I would say we only got half of that, though, because I also wanted them to have the title actually on screen appear in text.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that part, but I did get the cool episode titles.
Yeah, they're all pretty memorable.
I'm not the biggest Orville fan, but I do applaud the Orville for doing that in Trek tradition, putting the name of the episodes on screen.
Right.
Like every other Star Trek show ever, except for Discovery. But yeah, the Discovery episode titles are pretty cool. Mm-hmm. They're poetic and enticing. My number 9 was classic ships. I think we got that when we see the 1701 Enterprise herself in the last episode.
But not a ton of them. Overall, I'm going to say failed to deliver.
Well,
on
no,
that.
I would say
got ugly Klingon ships. The Disco was not a classic ship. The Enterprise is so cool at the end that yes, but I don't think you got too many of them.
The way I pitched it, if you go back and listen to the podcast, was like even if they just have a Daedalus class in the background somewhere, or like, just wanted to know that they were out there.
Okay,
so I would count that as a check. That we got that.
All right.
I wanted Star Trek music. I wanted a good Star Trek theme.
Uh-huh.
And I guess we got that with the Discovery theme.
I feel like the main theme is pretty strong in the show, but I think we talked about in evaluating the last few episodes, they didn't quite hit the heights that we might have hoped as far as the music.
Yeah.
I feel like they were stronger than TNG was for the most part once they kind of laid off the music around season 3 or whenever it happened. Because I feel like early on they were like...
Well, no, TNG started off with good music, and then it got bad.
Right.
Then it turned into wallpaper.
It started off kind of doing much more TOS style. But I don't know exactly where that happened, though. Was it 3?
It was after season 3. It was after Best of Both Worlds Part 1, when they had like that really cool...
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. And then Rick Berman was like, that was too good, never do it again.
Yeah.
But I'll give them a pass on the music on Discovery. I liked when they used the original series theme in the last episode of season 1.
I don't like these gray areas. Like, it kind of happened. I think no, it didn't happen. Yes, it happened.
It has to be either they did it or they didn't do it. Or do we give them like half credit?
They failed.
Okay, well I guess they failed on the music then.
Yes.
I wanted to see classic aliens. We did get that. There were some Endorians and Tellarites.
Yeah, especially once we got to the Mirror Universe, they seemed to throw out a lot of that.
Yeah, that was when we first saw them. Was in the Mirror Universe. I wanted some like innovative, original special effects. Things that we hadn't seen before,
like mycelial stuff.
We got that with the crazy, elaborate, over the top, but I love it. Spore drive effect.
Yes.
When the Discovery does the
flippy
the spore drive displacement whatever and spins around
when the black alert goes on, you gotta grab onto something. I feel like also maybe like there were other cool effects in there, like the big tardigrade or probably Harry Mudd's time loops. That might have been more about presentation than it was really something we hadn't seen special effects wise, but I feel like you can safely say, at least if only for the mycelial jumps,
then
we'll give it a check.
After that, I had funny moments. I wanted to see some comedy on the show. This was actually something that was on both of our lists.
Yeah. So. I think they delivered on that.
Yeah.
They had times when it was kind of dour for maybe a little bit longer than I might like at times, but Tilly saying "fuck yeah" was one of the great moments in all Trek history.
And I love like Saru's delivery when he's going through Mirror Universe Tilly's aliases, how she's known as this very notorious character, and just when he's like baffled by the silliness of it when he says Captain Killy.
Yeah.
So that I'm pretty sure I laughed out loud.
Tilly
at that,
in general
so.
provided a lot of good comedy. Her trying to get in character as Killy. What else we got?
And then I wanted to see a cameo, in the tradition of the other Star Trek shows, where the first episode of each series after the original series, they
got a handoff.
Yeah, they brought Dr. McCoy to the Next Generation. They had Picard in the first episode of DS9, and so on and so forth through all the Trek shows. We didn't get that on Discovery, so that was a big X instead of a check. They did not deliver on that.
Nice screw up. They waited until the very last to, in fact, kind of bring in a handoff.
I mean, we do see Sarek all through the show.
Right.
But I wanted to see, like, an actual actor from a previous show.
They could have had Pike because he fits the timeline. It's just that won't happen until season 2.
Right. But they could have used someone from Enterprise. I was thinking, like, Dr. Phlox, because we don't know how long the Nobulans live or something like that. Yep. They didn't do it, though. So I was disappointed in that. Not a huge deal, but it would have made me very happy if they had done it.
Disco, why didn't you grant his wish?
So then at number 3, I wanted to see Earth in the 23rd century. they did do that. We got to see, we got to get a look of Earth in the last episode.
Oh, that's true.
They're in Paris,
right?
Which is where the president of the Federation lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a ton of Earth time, but it's in there.
Yeah, and we got to see like a little bit of like, because we don't see Earth during like the original series. We see it a lot in the other shows and a lot in the movies. But I wanted to see something like around that original series time period.
Just to be pedantic, you do see it time travel style.
That's true, but
I know what you
mean. Don't see it at the time of the original series. I don't mind you pointing that out. But then at number 2, I wanted to see like some hard sci-fi concepts. The examples I actually gave in our podcast over a year ago were just like how Star Trek would do like cool stuff with like temporal anomalies, or just like the weird science fiction stuff like the Dyson sphere that we see in the Next Generation in the episode Relic. I think we did get some neat stuff. It was a bit weirder than I probably would have gone with, but with the mycelial network and the spore drive, I did like how
it felt a little more softer science, not quite like Battlestar Galactica, where they would just never say why it worked or did anything at all. But maybe in its weird way, a little more Star Warsy almost. Like they weren't too worried. Star
Wars doesn't like talk about like mushrooms.
That's true. That's true. They just are just like you just go into hyperspace, and it's dangerous. No, that's true. That's true. But yes, not quite. They weren't sort of necessarily. I don't think they were digging through the scientific journals for ideas the way
Star
TNG
Trek doesn't
was.
always do that though. That's
true.
I thought it was par for the course. It was just kind of weird, but I accept it. I'll give them a check for that. And then the thing I wanted most was social commentary, some form of social commentary. I think we did get that. Specifically with the Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe. Right. And this xenophobic society that is actually... they're all victims of their own fear of the other, the fear of what is different. And that was their greatest weakness.
Right. And arguably was the biggest destabilizing factor for them, so that their empire was destined to be... to burn bright fast and then fade away.
Yeah, and collapse on itself.
Yeah. And I feel like you can find other things in there, but it tended to be more subtle. It wasn't like this was an episode about, abortion. I don't know. Like, it was more like, well, maybe there was a little bit of a fear of overreaching, military and in sort of like the way Lorca was running things. And, it touched on PTSD and other stuff through Ash, but it was not so overt as it. They were telling their long form story, not doing as many standalone episodes quite in the way TNG and TOS or even DS9 have did back in the day, where it tend to be like, this was an episode about blank,
Yeah, but they still did the social commentary.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll give them a pass on that. So then, Dave, we're gonna go into your top 10. Now, two of those are the same as mine. We had the classic aliens and the funny moments.
Okay.
So I'm gonna exclude those, but your number 10 thing you wanted to see was a casually progressive future.
Oh, right. Just randomly accepted gay relationships and things like that.
Yeah, do you feel like, were you satisfied with how that was presented?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I might have liked to see more of it, and in that sense, I almost would have liked to have seen a little bit more downtime for the characters, which we only occasionally got. I guess like in the Mud episode, we got a bit of downtime, but we tended not to see too many glimpses.
The
of
Mud
their
episode,
lives.
you're talking about magics to make the sanest man go mad.
Correct.
When we had the time travel shenanigans.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like they came through. You could argue that the kill your gays trope negated it, but I'm not willing to drop the hammer on them until I see how that ultimately all plays out with Dr. Culber.
And I actually I was unaware of that trope before the season about the people who are critical of killing a gay character. I actually, I disagree with that trope. I think you should be able to kill whoever you need to on the show for the story.
Right.
And there's obviously, more to that in season 2.
Right.
And I wish that they weren't already trying to get out in front of that and say like, well, no, he's not really dead. We're going to see more of him because like I don't want to know that stuff ahead of time.
Right.
But
you would understand that a minority group who sees it consistently might be a little reactionary.
It's like the stereotype of like the black character always dies in movies,
right?
And I definitely like understand how that is a problem,
right? But you don't want it to mean that it can never happen.
Yeah, I don't want there to ever be like a rule that says like you can never kill a black character,
right?
Or you can never kill a gay character.
I think it really is that because this was the first sort of extended same-sex relationship in Star Trek, it sort of. That's why there were so many all eyes on it, and I don't know if that plot point was so good that it was worth killing off Culber, but it's kind of that's a bigger discussion. Overall, I feel like their heart was in the right place, and maybe just some execution could use refining.
Okay, we'll move on to your number 9.
Yep,
thing that you wanted was simply just sex.
Yes, I feel like I got that. Like there wasn't necessarily like on-screen sex. I wasn't necessarily looking for Game of Thrones, but I wanted to be present in there.
We know that Burnham and Tyler definitely hook up.
Yep. I kind of liked Tilly's kind of casual hookup attitude in the
magic to make the sanest man go mad.
The sanest man go mad, and the sense that wasn't just her, but like other people on the ship too, that they were getting drunk and hooking up.
There's a bunch of like young, pretty people during war when any night might be their last night alive. Yeah, like there's gonna be some sexual promiscuity on the ship.
And on the darker side of thing, rape was represented. I'm not saying that's sex,
but it wasn't really rape. He was just misremembering it. It was actually like.
But the way he experienced it, I think, and I do think that's key to it, was as if it was. And so I feel like in that sense, I think it was still present. If I have a memory implant that seems like rape, then it is.
But the reason why I want to make like the distinction in there is because that is actually like in that flashback. That's when we see like the first like true sexual nudity in Star Trek.
It's true,
with the Klingon boobies.
Right. What in fact was his memory of a normal, I guess, Klingon copulation craziness, but in his overlapping human Klingon memory fusion felt like rape to him. Anyway.
But you'll say that you were satisfied with how
I was satisfied.
They presented it. Okay. So moving on to your number 8, you want to see cool space battles. Do you think we got that?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say I kind of would have maybe liked to have seen a little bit more because at times it seems like the war was just like 2 or 3 quick actions and like some big decisive moments, and that's all we saw. That said, I didn't want it to be like a war show. I didn't want it to be like they were on the front line just fighting all the time. But like there were the big ones would be, I feel like when they found out how to break through the Klingons' cloaks had some notably cool stuff in it. And then there was what I'm trying to think. I know there was
the second episode had cool battle stuff. The battle of the binary stars.
Battle of the binary stars was like the big thing. Yeah.
But and I love because I wasn't back and rewatching that now.
I wasn't as plugged into the characters at that point, so I need to revisit it. But yeah, I would say I was more interested in some of the later stuff.
So we got the cool space battles. Mm-hmm. So next on your list, you said you wanted to see the Star Trek morality challenged.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Well, arguably it was challenged in the first episode. The Vulcan hello from Sarek was a challenge to standard Star Trek operating procedure.
And even some of the stuff towards the end with like the scheme to destroy Kronos.
Right. The questions of genocide put to the test, did feel like if this is the only way you can stop them, is it then worth it? That's a reasonable challenge to it. I feel like I'd like to see more of that, but I do think that they came through with it.
Okay. And then next we have number 6 on your list, classic aliens. We already said that we did get that.
Yep.
So your number 5 was non-hokey continuity.
Is
it weird to hear like your own words repeated back to you?
A little bit. Like what was my what did I mean by that?
Just like
I didn't rewatch this.
The example you gave was not like Star Wars, where everyone is related, everyone knows each other.
Right.
And I think we did get that non-hokey continuity when they mentioned like, oh yeah, like the first human to set foot on Kronos was Captain Archer over 100 years ago,
right.
And like little stuff.
Well, the
like
Mirror
that.
Universe had cool continuity stuff with Enterprise and TOS.
When Saru pulls up that list of all the most decorated captains, we see people like Matt Decker and Robert April.
Yeah.
And Archer again on there. So. And
also, I mean, they. I was going to say the very fact that the Klingon War was occurring was. I thought when they came back from the Mirror Universe, I thought that they were altering time or something like that, and that the war had been lost. Like that's which they wanted you to think. That they were right on the cusp, because they were right on the cusp of losing it. And I thought they were going to mess around with it, but there was enough, it seems like there was enough gray areas in the, canonical history that to work that in. But yeah, I'd say they did a good job. They certainly were not like continuity nerds, and they didn't throw in 5 or 6 nods to every little thing here and there. Pike was not in that first episode. Actually, I wouldn't have minded that, but had it been like, he's the guy who gives him a warning at some point, and then they talk to, somebody else, and it's a young Uhura, and that would have been the hokey side.
Yeah,
they avoided that.
Yeah, so far you got everything you wanted out of season 1.
Okay.
So moving on to your number 4, counting down to number 1, your number 4. You want to see some best friends. You want to see like a friendship on the show. Did we get that?
I felt like, that was a little bit what was promised with Burnham and Saru.
That's what we were thinking going in.
Didn't happen. The closest I think it actually happened to was almost more of a trio a little bit with Stamets, Tilly, and Burnham.
I would say specifically between Tilly and Burnham, how they become roommates. She's trying to kind of like mentor her into the command program she wants to go into, because Tilly aspires to be a captain.
Yep.
We also see them like they're talking about like their love life to each other a little bit.
Right.
Giving each other like romantic advice and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I would say we got like the best friend type of setup.
The trio was like a professional trio, more primarily, I think. And yeah, they were closer to best friends. So yeah, you're right on that one. And that was, and I really liked them together.
So, you lucky bastard, you're getting everything you asked for. So then we go to your number 3. Here's something you didn't get.
Shit.
Some traditional-looking Klingons. Nowhere to be seen in season 1 of Discovery.
Not a chance. The reason I'll give them a pass, even though it's definitely a overall, was because they've already teased it for season 2. So I know I'm gonna get it. But yes, they did not even come close.
And then number 2. You had the funny moments. We already talked about that. We got that.
Yep.
And so your number 1, which I love this. I almost used this for what I want to see in season 2.
Okay.
But I didn't put it on there because I would just have to put this on like anytime I'm watching Star Trek. I want to see this.
Right. I know what this is.
But Dave said his number 1 thing he wanted to see in season 1 of Star Trek Discovery was rationality and empathy winning the day.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love the way that he. If you're going to just like strip Star Trek down to like the bare minimal, what is Star Trek all about? I think that's what it comes down to, is a combination of using rationality and empathy to make the universe better.
Good job, 2017, Dave. Yeah, I mean, would you say? Let's see. It's a little. I have a little bit of a harder time finding the rationality part in the season, because it was a fairly emotional journey in a lot of ways, but definitely empathy played a huge part. That was arguably at the key thing in the final episodes, dealing with the Klingon Empire.
Yeah. I think we got it with how the season ended.
Yeah, even
and,
something
and
like
the arc that Burnham goes through.
Mm-hmm. Ash, if I'm not mistaken, ended up where he wanted to kind of do something to sort of forge a bridge between the Klingons and the Federation.
That seems to be like his mission that he's going to go off on.
Mm-hmm. And so, that sort of speaks to that, if that's his arc, was to go from warrior to peacemaker, that definitely speaks to empathy. Can you think of... as far as rationality, there were definitely times, there was not quite what I think of as the Kirk or Picard speechifying where they would take some civilization that was backwards in some way or had some kind of, tradition that was hobbling them, and they would kind of get them to see it from a more progressive angle.
I think that's what Burnham did for Starfleet at the end, and that instead of exploring a problem with like a alien society somewhere, they explored it in like Starfleet itself. And in Discovery, I always thought it took on a very like self-reflective nature.
Yep.
And it was kind of like critical of a lot of things going on in real life right now.
It makes sense at this point in time to be like, maybe we shouldn't show the characters lecturing to some foreign civilization about how to be better. Maybe it's a little bit time to look at ourselves and say,
look at the man in the mirror, to quote Michael Jackson, which plays in like their mirror motif thing that they were going for.
Well, that shit's deep.
Brian Fuller's weird Alice in Wonderland through the mirror.
How did they not include that as one of the hints? Somebody listened to some 20th century music. They're like, have you ever heard Man in the Mirror? It's really good. That
would probably be... I'm thinking that Michael Jackson songs are probably expensive, and CBS probably didn't want to pay for that. But instead, it was easier to get the Bee Gees.
But, it still worked out.
I'd say we got that rationality and empathy won the day.
I think so.
So, of those 18, I'm just going to go through them again super quickly. Cool episode titles, we got half of that. They weren't on screen. But I'll say like 0.5 on that.
Yeah.
Classic ships. Since it was my wish list, I'm going to say like I was satisfied with the Enterprise.
Okay. Fair enough.
We got that. Trek music. Just barely got that.
Yep.
Classic aliens, got that. Innovative special effects, got that. Funny moments, got that. Cameo, did not get that. Earth, we got that. The cool hard sci-fi concepts, got that. The social commentary, got that. Casual progressive future, we got that. Sex, we got that. Cool space battles, we got that. Star Trek morality challenged, we got that. Non-hokey continuity, we got that. Best friends, we got that. Traditional looking Klingons, we did not get that. Funny moments, already covered that. And then rationality and empathy. So the two things we didn't get was the traditional looking Klingons.
We're never going to get.
And the cameos we didn't get.
Arguably, you're going to get that too, but they're going to be more than cameos.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that soon.
There may be some more cameos in season 2 that we don't know about. We know the leads.
Of the 18 things we asked for last year, I would say we got 15 and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so what percentage would that be?
I'm not a mathematician.
Whatever percentage that is. I think it'd probably be like a B. Yeah. Not that this is probably the best way to like grade the show.
Yeah.
But just kind of like an arbitrary way of...
I give them a 15.5 out of 18.
There we go. That's not the official Tex-Trek ranking for season 1.
What is this, like first edition D&D? So weird.
Well, but enough of season 1.
All right, we ready to do this thing?
We're going to go through season 2. So we don't know how many we're going to end up with total. It'll be somewhere between 10 and 20.
Right. You're saying it could be 10 if every single one of ours was a duplicate of the others.
Very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Spock would be able to tell us exactly what the odds of that would be.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the odds of that happening are 0.04%.
0.047%.
You green-blooded inhuman.
I just want to work 47 into there.
That's nice.
Okay, but Dave, just like we did last year, I'll let you go first.
All right. So the one I'm going to start with...
With your number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10 on your wish list for Season 2 of Discovery.
My number 10 on my wish list is non-sinister Starfleet. So
it's a good one.
So you'll have to see if this backs me up because you revisited the season more than I have. So here's what I want. It's like Star Trek has this utopian ideal. Everybody knows about it and they talk about it as being a defining Star Trek thing. But very often, even in many past iterations of Trek, Starfleet has been either a bureaucratic mess or kind of weirdly hawkish.
The Badmirals.
The Badmirals, yes. And the rebels of the Enterprise or whatever, the Voyage or whatever, have had to be the kind of the moral front. And arguably, that was, I think, the case in Discovery, too.
They defy Starfleet orders there at the end. And I kind of had some problems with how Sinister Starfleet was presented, especially when they're using Sarek as part of that.
Right. And so the big things were putting the Emperor of the Mirror Universe in charge of the Discovery, and being on board with genociding the Klingons. But they also, small things like Burnham being sentenced to, life in prison seemed... I mean, I know that was just a bit of writing. It doesn't necessarily reflect Starfleet exactly, but it kind of does. It seemed weird that life sentences were, like, still a thing, that, like, rehabilitation wasn't considered to be more of a possibility in this utopian future. So... I'm not looking for necessarily. And by the way, those things, they were in wartime, so I'm gonna give them a little bit of leeway for being a little bit harsher than normal. But what I would like to see is a little bit more Federation at their best, where they're at least trying for more peaceful solutions, more humane solutions, and we see a little bit more of that utopian ideal, even if the events are too complex for them to always be able to live up to.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get that, because we know Section 31 is going to play a large part.
Right. And weirdly, I'm a little bit, even though I'm looking forward to, I'm torn on this, because I'm looking forward to seeing Georgiou in that role again, or that is to say, who's the actress? Michelle Yeoh. I'm looking forward to seeing Mirror Georgiou in that role, but I kind of don't want more Section 31. I feel like it's a little bit too anti-Federation.
I might have something to say on that.
Fair enough. We'll see if it recurs. And what is your number 10?
My number 10 is I want to see new opening credits.
Oh, interesting.
I want to... I'm okay if they use the same music. I'd also be okay if they changed it, as long as it's equally good or
I like the
better.
music. I like the music a lot.
They do, but I don't love it so much that I'd be mad if they changed it. I think there's... unless it was something that I didn't like as much. But I think they could do something that I like more.
It's been a long road.
Don't do that, whatever you do.
Getting from there to here.
I don't want to hear that.
But what if it had, like... What if it was that, but with dubstep? Wow, 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 wow!
I guess that would probably anything to like give that song just like a little bit more
anything life beyond its pale country pretensions.
But
all right, so yes, we talked about in season 1 the imagery that they used.
That's very season 1 type stuff.
Yeah,
we see like a tether because Ash and Michael Burnham were talking about how like they were the tether to like keep them grounded or whatever. We see like the weird spore plant.
Yep.
We see a bunch of Klingon weaponry, and so they definitely need to change that. At least upgrade that to some season 2. So give us some looks at the Red Angel or something, or the Red
stuff
Bursts.
That we probably like this one. We probably can't possibly guess what it means, but it may be fun to speculate. I think that'd be kind of neat if that's what they did. But you want something new to kind of charge up the opening a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting. I can get behind that. And I definitely, even if it is the same music and the same overall design, I'd like to see some new iconography to hint at what's happening in the season.
What about your number 9? What do we have?
All right. Number 9 is a specific character. I want more of Vice Admiral Cornwell.
We got a lot of her in season 1.
I know. I liked her character.
Do you want to see that same amount, or do you just want to make sure she returns in some form, or do you want to see even more?
I would say returns in some form, but I kind of I thought she was one of the stronger characters of the season, and so I don't necessarily want her to she's probably not going to become a regular character, and so I don't want her to overshadow other characters, especially with the possibility we may be seeing more of characters who we know in name only. So I wouldn't want her to overshadow them. I guess I'd say I'd like her to be in there. I don't want her to be wiped away, because I thought she was interesting. She was a match for Lorca. As far as she was his intellectual match, and also willing to call out his shit. And that's not easy.
We also got some sex that you wanted.
Yep.
Two of them. I forgot to mention that earlier.
And vaguely, slightly daring in that it was slightly older people sex. It was
also very casual
in their 50s, I guess. Let's see. She was gonna write him off as unfit for duty, right? That was about to happen.
Oh, and I like that she
got captured.
Yeah, because she was like a psychiatrist,
right? That was her training.
She came up through the ranks as a psychiatrist and became an admiral.
But clearly more of kind of a hardline realist too. And I guess we would broadly say hawkish.
But did they ruin her by making her part of the plan to genocide the Klingons?
I can buy that when it came to brass tacks, somebody who would be that close enough to Lorca to have a romantic relationship with him would also maybe share a certain hardline approach. So,
but she was originally in a relationship with the Prime Universe Lorca that we never got to see on the show.
That's
true. She was weirded out by Mirror Universe Lorca.
Yeah, but some of that had to be coming through in Prime Lorca, right? But no. When did he replace him?
Before the series, we've never seen Prime Universe Lorca.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
That was every episode was Mirror Universe Lorca.
Could she have, when she had a romantic relationship, could it have been Mirror Universe Lorca?
Always? No, not always, because they knew each. They had like a long history.
Yeah, but I was going to say I didn't know how long Mirror Universe Lorca had been around.
But she was kind of freaked out. She was like, "You seem really weird. You're not like how you used to be."
That's true. So anyway, but suffice to say, I liked the character, and I feel like if anything, she might be an interesting, almost counterpoint. If she is the hardliner that she was represented by in that one, or somebody who's torn between it, that would be okay to see. I don't mind seeing Starfleet having difficulty over something, but Star Trek can get a little hippy dippy or a little preachy, and her being a little bit of a counterbalance could be a good thing.
Her being a hawk in a fleet of doves.
Yeah, although I tend to think it's very poetically put. I tend to think that because of the way
I stole that from Webb.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's something that he said about.
Okay, I like it. But we more often do see Starfleet portrayed, at least the leadership, as hawkish. So I don't know if that would seem that weird at this point.
And every Star Trek show, except for the original series, has had a recurring admiral that we see multiple times. So
even if she's just
like
the
when
one
they do that.
who's there when we see Pike, showing issuing him orders and occasionally taking communiques from him, I'd be down with that. She could be the spokesperson for Starfleet.
Okay, so my number 9 is going to be better ship shots. I want to see well lit, dynamic shots of the ships that really show them off, and that something that would be like a bit more traditional. Mm-hmm. I think there's a good chance we'll get that at least a little bit in Discovery, because I've seen a little bit of that in the trailers. Mm-hmm. But I want to see just.
Do you think they were too like the Bourne Identity of spaceships, all close-ups and kind of trying to capture elements of them, but really not pulling back so you can see
and
it all clearly?
A lot of time there should never be a ship mentioned on Star Trek that we don't see. We cut to an establishing shot of the ship. A lot of times in Discovery they'd be like, "Oh yeah, the Admiral's ship is dropped out of warp." Well, show me the ship.
Yeah. It is weird because that also, it creates a sort of visual geography, even if it's just between two ships, not necessarily like where the stars are in relation to them. But it's like, it feels more real when you see the ship the two ships facing off or flying side by side.
And it's just cool to see, good ship designs.
Oh, yeah.
And John Eves has done some great designs on the show. Show that shit off. That's a big part of a lot of people's Star Trek fandom is the cool ships.
Yeah.
Y'all can see if you're watching this on YouTube, all these ships above us up here. I really love that. It's not the most important thing. It's only number 9 on my list.
Right.
It makes a lot of people very happy. Give us the ship porn.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Star Trek ship designs are some of the coolest things that they've got going for them, at least kind of on a surface level. And surface is okay to consider sometimes in these kind of franchises.
Yeah. Like I said, not the most important thing, but it is cool, and it is somewhat important to a lot of the fandom.
Yeah.
I noticed, this is kind of a weird tangent, but I noticed it tends to be more guys than girls in the Star Trek fan base. They really care about the ships, just the technology stuff in general.
Yeah, but it's that same way that kind of guys get into more military fantasy type stuff,
or cars,
like Warhammer 40K, I think you could look at all sorts of trends as to why that might be, including the fact that probably just in the areas of mechanics and vehicle design and those things, women have had a much more minimalized role in a sort of patriarchal society. You know, they don't have a lot of agency there. So why would they get into cars when that's not like marketed to them?
Not to say that there aren't chicks who are into that.
No, but I think the broad trend is pretty clear that it is a more guy-ish thing. But yeah, like it was when I was a kid, it was part of my fandom was a little bit of that. You know, I feel slightly surface like the action side of Star Trek. Whether it was like the uniforms and like I was into we've talked about this, the military sort of uniforms of Wrath of Khan onward, the crimson uniforms they had, and
the maroon monsters.
The maroon monsters. People don't call them that.
Yes, people do call them that.
Do you call them that?
I call them that.
Well, is it just because you don't like it?
No, this is like this is what like the fandom has decided to call them.
Why would you say monsters?
I don't know, because they're so elaborate. They're kind of like monstrosities.
I don't know. That elaborate. They just look like a little bit more military.
They don't look like pajamas.
They don't. That's true. But anyway, I don't know if I had a point amongst all of that, other than to say that yes, the ship design was also in there.
Spaceships are cool.
Loved how the Klingon ships looked. Loved how the Romulan ships look.
It's just like that simple child level thing of like, oh, that's a cool looking spaceship.
Yeah, and you know we're both superhero nerds and stuff like that too. It's like I think. You know, writers who kind of zero in on the relationship side can forget. Sometimes you just want to see Superman or Batman kind of... There's a little bit of surface cool to it. And you want
to see cool designs. You want to see cool costumes. It's the same thing.
I don't think there's anything really embarrassing about that, whether you're into anime or whatever.
Visual mediums need good visuals.
Yeah, totally.
And so, cool starships are good. A lot of people like that. So give us that.
Word up.
So, Dave, that brings us to your number 8, I believe.
Yep, my number 8 kind of fits almost right in with what we were talking about. Not super important, but a fun side of it. I've labeled this one Advanced Hand-to-Hand Combat.
Oh, that was a good one.
For Christopher Pike in Trek 09, his away team to take down the drill. And
we got a lot of really good hand-to-hand combat in Season 1 of Discovery.
And that is exactly why I feel like, especially as Pike enters the scene...
So Pike specifically needs to do the hand-to-hand combat?
No. But... it's more like I want more... Like, I think, there's some of the most exhilarating moments were when we saw Georgiou and the other people engaging in hand-to-hand combat, and sometimes close phaser combat, too, in the Mirror Universe. And the fact that Pike... kind of represents TOS in a way, and Spock and the appearance of the Enterprise.
You want to see a double fist punch?
I would love to, although I don't necessarily need nostalgia porn. I think it'd be fun, but you don't need to like throw it in and say that that's actually some special martial arts move that only the top people can pull off without breaking their fingers or something.
I promise you we're going to get this one because they're using Michelle Yeoh as in Section 31.
Right.
She's going to be in a sword fight again or doing some like kung fu kicks or something. We're going to get that.
But I think I do want to like she was like the most badass in the season, but I would like to see it of other people too. And you know, TOS had a tradition of all those fights. They're leaning a little bit into TOS territory, so yeah, it's a good time to have a couple of dust-ups.
Yeah. And I think some people actually complained about like the level of action we got on Discovery in the Mirror Universe.
They thought it was too much?
Yeah, like I think like Red Letter Media in their coverage of it, they were talking about how like, oh, they're just like turning it into Star Wars and like look at all like this dumb action. But I was like, if you watch the original series, there are a lot of fist fights.
Yeah.
They're not choreographed as elaborately as they would be if they made them today, but if you know, like, just like the script, they write, like, like, they fight. It's pretty much like what they're writing in these episodes.
But, like,
there's a better fight choreographers now.
Whether I think of, like, Finnegan's extended fight with Kirk, which also had an emotional resonance. It wasn't just fighting. It was meant to be a knockdown, drag-out fight that reflected Kirk's, long-standing grudge against him, and that this guy was such a fucking jerk. Or like Kirk versus Khan, which was this Khan was supposed to be so clearly his superior.
It was so cool when he crushes the phaser, and you just know like, oh shit, Kirk is screwed.
Yeah, he does a lot of those, a lot of great stuff. Or mirror Spock whooping up on the entire team and just.
It was a boss fight.
Who does he backhand? Where he gets that somebody gets a good shot in on him, and
someone smashes something on him.
He's just enraged, and he just backhands him across the room. I would like some of that stuff.
I always push back when and I get like people don't want Star Trek to be like dumbed down and be like just stupid popcorn action, but I always push back when people say that like, yeah, Star Trek shouldn't be too action heavy. They're trying to put too much action in Star Trek. I say like, no, that's always been there. Mm-hmm. Go back, look at the original series. They did it a lot. They had cool space battles in DS9. Yeah. They had fist fights on the original series. Like Star Trek can do action. It has done it very well. Right. I mean, I don't need to see Picard in a dune buggy car chase ever again the rest of my life.
Right.
It can be done poorly, but more often than not, I think Star Trek gets action right.
Right. I'm going to agree with you on that, and I'm going to say, like, if you're doing an episode like, say, Darmok, okay.
that had action
actually,
in it.
You're right. I was about to say you don't necessarily need it, but that did have action. That was, like, survivalist action.
Yeah, that was some, like, the best, like, dramatic tension in that episode comes from when they're having to fight. They literally have a knife fight with a monster.
Yep. I think the thing for me is, like, I do like fights that kind of mean something or feel like they have high stakes. When they were in the Mirror Universe, and you saw so many people getting killed and stuff like that in these fights, it felt like high stakes, and it was also a big payoff, like the end of a Bond movie, you know, when the Spectre forces go up against all the MI5, 6, whatever it is, guys. But also, like, Darmok had personal stakes. Khan was, like, so clearly, like, towering over Kirk. The Finnegan one I said was talking about had some emotional resonance. Like, I want the fights, I want the action to mean something, either be very tense or to have some personal bearing on the character. I don't want it to be kung fu movie style where, like, you will get a lot of fights that are kind of, that could be, they do have meaning in kung fu movies, but they use it as a far more of an important expression than Star Trek ever should.
Would you say it just needs to have like more depth than just like the visual spectacle of it?
Yeah,
there needs to be more substance.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So
what do you got? 7? Are we on 7? Or, no, you're on 8.
My 8. Number 8.
Yeah.
So this is the closest I came to repeating myself.
Yep.
From the last year's list, but I want even more classic aliens. So what I mean by that is I do want to see more Vulcans and Tellarites and Andorians. But so I also want to see more pre-established alien species beyond those.
Exactly my number 7, which I wrote as aliens from Trek's long history.
I think this happened last year. Like my number 8 was your number 7. It was the same
my
thing.
examples I included in this, and I do have 1 or 2 things to add. I'll let you go, but like I also included like because I don't know when all of these people joined the Federation, but like Betazoids, Bolians. Denobulans, like Dr. Phlox. Like, I would love to see if instead of a random alien, it was one of those people.
Oh, and we did get Orions and Trills.
Were there Trills?
Yeah, on Kronos of the Orion Embassy getting tattoos.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I need to see, and we're getting Linus, the Saurian, who sneezes on people in the turbo lift. Which that's probably the least.
It's a little
I like that the least,
but yeah.
Of anything we've seen in promotional material for Discovery Season 2.
It was very kind of hokey.
That's the only thing I saw that I was like, I don't like that.
Little wincy, yeah.
But, yeah.
Everybody is allowed to have a joke or two that kind of just, that falls a little bit flat. Next Gen had it more often than I would like, but TOS was pretty good at it, but everybody drops the ball sometimes.
But give us some more. Give us the Binar. Those guys were cool.
Which ones are those?
The 2 little guys, they're always like in pairs of 2 and they speak binary.
Oh, yeah. So here's the one that I would most like to see, and this is based on something that you mentioned, and I've always liked this idea. When we were talking about who could replace, like what they should do with Anton Yelchin in the movies having passed away.
Yeah, if they do a 4th Kelvin movie.
You were saying that
they should have Eric's from the animated series.
Yes.
Who replaced Chekhov on the animated series.
Right. It's like already like got a continuity notion. And what do they call his people? Edosian?
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
The 3-armed, 3-legged.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do that on Discovery because it'd be such an elaborate CGI effect.
Not as a long recurring character. Like, I don't want him to replace like Chekhov. But if you had like an example of one of them, I think you could actually probably do practical effects and just CG for movement, maybe.
That would be cool. If they found a way to do that, I would love it.
But either that or I don't know how you say it, Cation, the cat people also from the animated series.
Oh, no, you said that way wrong. You messed me up. I can't think of it now.
It looks like Caitian. I wrote it down. Catian? Catian?
Yeah, Cadians? Like, you really messed it up.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
What Maress is.
Yeah. Basically, I just think it'd be fun to kind of link together some of that stuff. That'd be kind of some fun continuity, and it would also, at the same time, be delivering some aliens that have been around, but have in a way kind of been pushed to the side because they were in the animated series. So that is your number 8, and my number 7. I don't know if I necessarily have anything else to mention, other than, I did want to say this is just you know how there's an image of an angel at some point?
Yeah, the Red Angel.
Yeah, the Red Angel.
The big thing in the promotional material.
Yep. At some point, I can't remember if it was just me wondering about how that, the red matter might tie into crazy stuff from the Abrams verse or whatever. But at some point, I had this notion that it would be interesting if that angel was somebody like an entity like Guinan's people.
Well, I think probably not Elorian, is what they were called. But
because what's her name? Burnham said something like, "When I see it, I felt safe," or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, that seems like the kind of thing that I could see coming from her people."
Well, the story that they're doing for season 2 that they've said for a long time now is that it'll be kind of like a faith versus science story, and so they'll get into like kind of spirituality, I guess, on some level, or just like how people identify with religious figures or. Things
Certainly,
of that nature.
The notion that Spock is chasing after something, or Burnham, both of whom are very kind of logic oriented, and this sounds like a bit of a faithful thing because it was like in dreams, almost on a spiritual level that they had, that Spock had when he was younger. That sounds more like visions and it's like mysticism. So already you can see they're taking characters that are like rooted in logic and pushing them into spiritual territory. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I don't actually think it's going to end up being Guinan. I just think it would be kind of neat to see something like that. It's a bit of continuity that I wouldn't mind if they could find a way to write it in well.
Well, there are some fan theories about what the Red Angel might be, and I don't really want to go into that too much because I don't want to get into like spoilerish material. But...
Fair enough. I don't want to guess too much at stuff like that based on where fan theories are, since I am deliberately not watching that last trailer still.
So
that was my number 7. And shall we jump to your 7?
So my number 7 is I want more color. I love the look of Star Trek Discovery Season 1. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of the designs are really cool. I love how they kept like a very TOS looking phaser and communicator. I love the uniforms for the most part. I love like little combat vests that they strap on. The thing that bugs me the most, besides the Klingon issues, which we've talked about before, that we know is going to be addressed in season 2. Yep. But everything is a little sterile. Everything is like a cool blue or black or silver.
It almost feels a little bit more like you're walking around on like a modern version of a Romulan ship or something like that at times.
I don't know. I never think Romulan, but I need more color. I need it to pop. I want to see.
We know we're at least getting some TOS style uniforms, right?
Yeah, but I think that's just going to be like in the first episode, and then Pike is switching to the disco uniform.
Yeah,
but I want to see like on the computer displays. I don't want to just see cool blue. Give me some red and gold. Let's see like those TOS colors. Come through. I want to see the sections of the ship, the interiors on the ship. I just want to see them like lit better. Just give me some more colors.
One of the things I got to give it up for the Kelvinverse movies is even though they might have Apple stored it up a little bit on the bridge, I thought that was a pretty good look, and I felt like the interiors of the Enterprise felt like what they were trying to portray.
There was an energy to it.
Youthful energy, like a zest for science and exploration. Probably more exploration than hard science.
And the original series is famously colorful.
Yeah.
A big part because NBC wanted people to buy color televisions.
Oh, yeah.
But they wanted the show to look good in color.
Yeah.
But I have a big fondness for that colorful future.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that, although it wouldn't have occurred to me to mention it. But I think you're right. And the fact that they're like bringing in Pike at least speaks to some of the thematics of TOS. Clearly his attitude is kind of TOS and Kirk-like on the trailers. And it would be a decent time for their set designers to sort of think about some of those things and maybe integrating a little bit more TOS colorfulness.
So, do we want to go to your number 6?
Yes. Okay. So this is a sort of a more abstract thing, but what I would like is that energy that you get on so many Star Treks from a synergized bridge crew. You know, where the crew is kind of known and interacting. Right now, as it happens, they're not. I don't think everybody on there is being very bridge crewy. I guess they are all on the bridge. But, like, we don't... Was it Detmer is the navigator, or the helmsman.
So do you want more from the people that we see on the bridge?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I had.
In a way, it's less for me about the way you might have had it, which is increased roles for some of those characters we know in name only. And for me, it's more about, I want the bridge to feel a little bit more magical. You know how, definitely TOS and TNG were the big ones, where you knew everybody on there almost like family. Even though sometimes, Chekhov and Sulu didn't have much personality, but you still knew them because they were omnipresent on there. And they would sometimes get an episode. And so, when they were chatting or when Data talks to Worf or something like that, there was a real energy and synergy going on.
So how do you get that without giving more screen time to those characters?
And I do think that's kind of part and parcel of it. So I think Detmer needs some more of that screen time. Sometimes they also cheated in.
Do you know any of the other people's names? You know Arium, the robot face.
Yeah, but I didn't remember it. But I would say some of the ones that would normally be kind of standard on the bridge, even if they're not technically bridge crew, like having a chief medical officer, well, Culber's out of there.
He wasn't the chief medical officer, though.
Was he not?
He was a doctor.
He was a doctor.
But he wasn't the
They
CMO.
went a little bit more realistic. Normally, you kind of the main characters are essentially the department heads of the different, they're... Burnham is a science officer. Tilly is a science officer.
Tilly works in
Stamets
engineering.
Is a science officer.
Tilly is in engineering.
Okay, that's right.
Stamets is chief engineer of the Spore Drive, according to, I think, Ted Sullivan or one of the writers.
Do we know who chief engineer of the ship is?
No.
And we also don't know, what's his name? Ash was he was head of security, but he's gone too.
Yeah, I think the Asian guy, Reese, I think because he was a security officer, so I'm assuming he's chief of security now, unless we find out someone else is in season 2.
Right. I think what I would say is I'd like to see a bridge where there's a little bit of stability on there. I love the character interactions on Disco, and I do think that it was even kind of cool to see it that they didn't follow all the rules of TOS and TNG and having everybody being a major player on there. So this is kind of low on my list, or high on my list rather, but I'm not actually super hardcore about it, but I would like for the bridge to feel like a special place again, and I don't think they quite had that going on.
I'm going to go ahead and just go into my number 5, because it's close enough, but I want more from those characters that I'm talking. I want more from Owasakan. I want more from Reese and Bryce and Detmer.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to know those people. I want to flesh them out. I want them to be more than...
Do you want them to be more than, say, Chekhov and Sulu were on TOS?
I want them to at least be that level, but they're not even there.
Mm-hmm.
The comparison I keep making is Mr. Kyle on the original series.
Right. He was there, and he was a recurring character in name only.
Yeah, he was just, whenever they needed a red shirt to not die,
yeah.
A lot of times they would use this guy, Mr. Kyle.
Right.
But... I don't know anything about him. He shows up in the Wrath of Khan. He was on the Reliant.
Yeah, that's right.
But
does he have a beard?
Yeah, he has a weird goatee going on in the Wrath of Khan. It's not very doesn't look familiar to how he looked in this.
I guess I'm glad at least he was around.
Yeah, no, that was a good little fan service. They did that in the movie. They brought back Did Chapel.
Did he survive Wrath of Khan?
In theory, because they abandoned the Reliance crew on Ceti Alpha 5,
right.
The Enterprise.
I was thinking about Khan slitting throats, but those were the scientists at Space Lab Regular 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully he did.
But so we did your number 7, right? We're on your number 6.
Actually, that was my number 6 because.
Okay.
Do you have a number 6?
Yeah, I do. And
okay.
I guess we'll just skip my number 5 because I just went over. My number 6 is I want a covert and shady Section 31. Yep. I don't want Section 31 to be out in the open so much that it doesn't make sense for people to not have widespread knowledge of this organization.
The one weird part about the trailers has been seeing Michelle Yeoh in like her all-black uniform, like as if Section 31 people come in and they're like, we're the hit squad or whatever.
Or they have fucking black badges.
Right. They did show, they show somebody handing her the black badge, which looks super dope.
Yeah, that was the deleted scene that they
do we presume we'll make
us.
it into, or be some version will be in the actual
I don't know
episode.
if they'll actually use that, but I mean they don't need to use it. We obviously know she gets recruited in Section 31,
right.
so...
Now, that said, it's not to say that the people on the crew know what her deal is when she shows up, although presumably they would see her and think, oh, that used to be our captain, and she was just about to genocide the Klingon planet, but they found another thing. And what's she doing now in a black jumpsuit? So, if she's just strolling around in that and not kind of, like, hidden in some way, it would be a little weird.
Yeah, and
really
I want Section 31 to be...
You want them to be covert CIA.
Yeah, I want them to be covert, and I want them to be shady, too. I want them to be doing some questionable stuff. I don't want to cheer for Section 31, too. Maybe a little bit here and there, but like I want them to be the bad guys.
Right, and I think I could work with it on that level. My understanding is that they don't have Federation oversight, that they're kind of their own little secret Illuminati-ish kind of peacekeepers. Or are they supposed to be under the auspices of Federation?
Well, there are some people in some high-ranking people in Starfleet.
Yeah.
Are affiliated with.
When
them,
I looked it up
I
looked it up at Memory Alpha, and it said that they were independent of Starfleet.
Yeah, but
that just meant they essentially had agents in Starfleet, right? Yeah.
But I mean, you can assume that some of those people are going to be like high-ranking admirals and whatnot, like possibly Cornwell.
You know about the historical Star Chamber? Like, that led to they did a movie based on this. It was like a thing, and I think I'm not gonna fuck this up, but it's like a Renaissance era like secret court sort of thing that was like almost like a real Illuminati thing, but maybe with a more focused purpose. They did a movie in the 70s or 80s where Michael Douglas is a judge whose daughter gets like raped and killed, and the guy gets off on a technicality. Like, every movie in the 70s was about this. And he and some other judges with some power and influence and money form a modern-day Star Chamber where they will send out, like, hitmen to take out guys like that who get out of control. Obviously, the premise of this, same as in Dirty Harry when they had the cops that were secretly assassinating people, is they overstepped their bounds, and, Michael Douglas ended up kind of going up against them in it, same as Dirty Harry did. So... do you see it like something like that where yes, they're mean, the ends might be like justifiable at times, but they're clearly kind of skeevy for what they do?
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with Section 31. I think it actually like explains a lot of the times when we do see like bad admirals
right
that try to like sabotage peace talks with Klingons and stuff like that. It makes sense to like retroactively be like, oh yeah, they're probably in Section 31.
You know what I would sort of like
to
see? This is unrelated to this, is in the Picard show, is I want to see him take down Section 31.
That would be cool, but they do that a lot in like the books and stuff, which I know are like non-canon, and it seems like every time like someone brings down Section 31, it's revealed like, we just wanted you to think that you brought us down so that we could come back even more secret.
It makes complete sense, but if Picard did it, I feel like it could stick. I like the notion of him disbanding a region destabilizing, government toppling, assassination having organization for good.
I mean, I would love that story.
He
that
would
would be a cool story.
He is not the kind of guy who normally does that sort of stuff, so he'd have to bring in it'd be like Worf is working on this, and other people are doing cool intelligence gathering stuff for him. But anyway, that's for another discussion. It's just
that might be too much Section 31 if they're doing it on both shows at the same time. And also, it's rumored that they want to do like a Michelle Yeoh spinoff about Section 31. Which it'd be, I can see that working, but it'd be tricky to pull that off. I don't want to go into that right now.
I'll be curious to see what Section 31's role in this is. Like, she literally just got over here. Probably some time has passed, some months before the events. I mean, the Enterprise showed up at the end of the season. Is much time supposed to have passed?
Well, I mean, with
some time clearly passed after the incident with the end of the war. We know that because we saw, a montage of where people are now at the end of the season. Whether it was... but most of it seemed pretty, within a few days. Basically, I'm wondering is, how quickly she gets inducted into Section 31. Why would they be putting her with people who know her deal?
In that deleted scene, they recruit her off of Kronos.
Yeah.
So...
But, like, you know, Burnham and those people know her backstory. She can't be a good undercover agent with them, but she could be a good advisor on things. You know, like, I wonder if Starfleet, whatever the nature of the red bursts and things is, there's something so dangerous that they do need to immediately use her for that. Maybe they don't even know, like...
Or not Starfleet, but Section 31.
Section 31, yeah. But, like, if she shows up on the Enterprise, or I'm sorry, on the Discovery under Pike's captaincy... They can't just say this person is in charge now on the basis of Section 31. It has to be come down from the Federation.
Right.
Unless he sees the need for it and he knows about Section 31.
Well, in the trailer, he doesn't seem to know that she's even from the alternate universe. When we see him, like, talk to her.
He says, like, good to have you back or something
yeah,
like that.
And that's... I would think, like, Burnham would be like, hey, Chris, we need to talk about this.
Just... So yeah, we'll see. But I understand what you're saying. You want to see them. You want to see them around, but you want to see them be the shady guys.
I want them to be covert, and I want them to be shady. And
you don't want them to be like the kind of portrayal we think of as like G.I. Joe or some cool special missions team that's very much above board.
Well, first of all, G.I. Joe isn't cool, but
G.I. Joe is super cool.
It's if you like village people with guns.
All right, whatever. You've got your spiel.
Okay, but yeah,
because you watch the cartoons.
Enough about
didn't read the comics.
Enough about Transformers was a better cartoon and a better comic. But,
oh Lord.
Anyways, enough about 80s action cartoons and enough about Section 31. I'm ready to move on.
All right, what do we got?
I guess we're on your number. We did your number 6.
Yes.
So we're on your number 5.
Yep. And here's where I kind of jump back a little bit to something from our original list. And say that I want some stronger music. Which is not really... I think what they did was good.
It's satisfactory, but they could do better.
I think they could do better. And my gold standard is the original series, which I know that exact style won't update, that you need to think in terms of like, that like this sort of... There's a certain 60s bombast to it. But it also had very memorable themes.
Do you ever listen to the Discovery music? It's on Spotify now.
No, I haven't listened to it outside of the show. You should check it out.
The second volume is better because it has like the cool, like, darker music from the Mirror Universe.
Yeah.
You should give it a listen.
I should totally
see how it holds up outside of the show.
I agree.
You might appreciate it more or less. I don't know.
Maybe. What I was going to say is we know they were influenced in a lot of ways in the show by Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones is not a show where people like talk a ton about the music. But it does have really good music.
And they have like the Lannister theme with like the Reigns of Castamere. And they have like the Stark theme. There's a Greyjoy theme.
Right. And of course, the opening theme is super well known.
Yeah.
So I would say like as far as like looking for influence, I would say that would be kind of neat to see. I would like to see some more themes that are memorable. If Pike had a theme, if the Enterprise had a theme.
Character motifs.
Right. If the mysterious red bursts had a weird, eerie-sounding theme.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Anyway, so that's my number 5.
Okay, and we covered my number 5 was more from the Mr. Kyle characters.
Right.
More from the support staff.
Right, yeah, you want to see those guys get an upgrade.
Yeah, the other people on the bridge. So let's go to your number 4.
All right, number 4 for me is that I kind of want more standalone episodes, functionally standalone. I understand everything is telling a big story,
and I think we're gonna get that with how they're doing the Red Burst.
Right,
potentially each Red Burst will be its own little adventure.
That is my hope. What are there, 5 of them?
7.
Okay, so yeah,
but there's gonna be 14 episodes.
So yeah, they set up an episodic quality like that, and as I look to episodes like Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad and things like that as some of my favorites of Disco's season 1, they did have any number of standalone episodes, and I those were some of my favorites. The one where they rescued Sarek and things like that. But I would like to. I guess I'd like to see more of them. I'm always kind of a bit of an odd man out, I know, in the present times where people are very much about the arcs and
we just
the
talked
mythology.
about like Game of Thrones, which is pretty much every episode of Game of Thrones is a collection of scenes that forward multiple storylines.
Right.
And then the next episode is another collection of scenes that forward multiple storylines a little further.
Yeah, you can still say it's like, oh, that was the episode where Jaime Lannister lost his hand, but it is a little harder. They do tend to all be...
Spoiler alert for Game of Thrones a little bit. They do like a big battle on the wall.
Yeah.
When the wildlings attack.
Right, there's
a
ones
whole
that stand
episode
out
is just
more.
like that battle.
I mean, honestly, I feel like
those
Discovery...
are the exceptions to the rule.
I feel like Discovery kind of accomplished that somewhat in the first season pretty well. That they had those... It felt more like a big tapestry with some big high moments and some places where I can be like, I remember this specific episode, this specific one. But my personal thing is I like a tightly written episode with highs and lows that essentially resolves in one episode and still has an emotional resonance for the characters. I don't necessarily have to have everything tied up nice and neat with a bow, but I want it to feel almost in a way like it has.
And we've talked about this a lot before. My preference is kind of like the hybrid method, where I want to see episodes that really like stand on their own and have a beginning, middle, and end within that episode. But I also want to see
the big plot moved forward.
Yeah, and I want there to be consequences to like things that happen, and the status quo not reset at the end of every episode.
Totally.
And I want to see there be storylines that are long arcs that take multiple episodes to carry out. Like I'm currently watching. I'm rewatching the Young Justice animated series, the DC superheroes, and I think it's a good example of what I'm talking about, where they'll do episodes where it's like, okay, here, Superboy and Miss Martian have to go undercover and go into prison at Bel Rev, and it's a good little self-contained story, but it also has, it also furthers a larger arc.
Right.
And
if something big happens to one of those characters to make them say, like, paranoid or withdraw into themselves because of something that happens, I do want that to be in subsequent episodes. I don't want it to be like, I definitely don't want the reset.
Yeah, and I want there to be like long form like mysteries that are like drawn out and are slowly revealed and stuff like that. And I want there to be like payoff.
Yeah,
to things that have happened in previous episodes. But yeah, there's a hybrid.
Like, as you kind of get closer to the finale, I totally get, like, I think that's when you wanted the episodes to start linking up more closely. That's a good format. And I think you're right. I think there's a pretty good chance I'll get this because of the nature of the Red Burst investigations. That maybe, each one will have some different phenomenon going on. But
yeah, and I love the way that they're structuring the series with that. I'm very eager to see it played out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know for that for sure. It may happen quite differently. Maybe the one episode they'll be like,
Anson Mount
we
basically
visited
said,
3 of them.
Anson Mount basically said, like, the Red Burst are going to allow us to do more episodic storytelling.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I'm down for it. All right, what are we on? Number 4 for you?
That was your number 4?
Yep.
So yeah, my number 4, just as like my number 5 was I want more from the support characters, my number 4 is I want to see growth and change in the main characters.
Oh,
and like your Burnham and Tilly and Stamets and Saru. I want these characters to have dynamics with one another that are a little different from what we saw in the previous season. I want to see the characters just changed and continue to change by the end of the season. One of the things I loved about Discovery Season 1 is how they all got promotions.
Yeah.
Like, people aren't going to be, like, the same rank for 7 years, like in a lot of other Star Trek shows.
Tilly is clearly ambitious and, on her command track.
She went from a cadet to an ensign. I want to see Tilly, command something, like, in charge of a project, or, like, command an away team, or something like that. I want to see her, on, like, her first little command adventure. I want to see Tyler and Burnham come face to face, and their romantic relationship be in a different place now. After they've broken up and spent some time separate. Now, like, when they come back together, I want their dynamic to be different. I want to see her and Saru as they kind of went from like having a rivalry and hating each other to kind of like settling their differences and burying the hatchet a little bit. I want to see their relationship changed and in a different place.
I can agree with all of that. You know what I think would be interesting, or this maybe it would, I don't know. If say Burnham and Tilly they're kind of thick as thieves. It'd be kind of interesting to me if people were like almost slightly wary of them as partners sometimes. Like, okay, they're always going to back each other up, so like the two of them, we're getting into pretty nuanced stuff here. It's like, if we need input, the two of them are going to like always back each other up. So therefore, we take both of them together as a unit a little less seriously. it'd be interesting to see some dynamics like that turn
It's
up.
weirdly specific.
I know it is weirdly specific. It was just something that popped into my head. It's also something you don't usually see. Very often, like, Data and Geordi are a good team together. I think it'd be interesting to explore this, not negative dynamics of like friends, but, cliquishness, I guess, whether it's that or just like maybe Saru's jealous of them. Maybe, he's like, I wish I could have that with Burnham. I've tried and I can't quite. We're a little too different. I think it'd be interesting to zero in some slightly unexpected ways on some of those. But broadly speaking, I agree with all of the stuff you said, and I feel like we did get in good character arcs in the first one, and they should just kind of continue to do those. Saru became captain, and then had it stripped from him. But
Well, he was acting captain.
He was acting captain, but even losing that captaincy should have some meaning for him. And may just take me into my next one.
Okay, so number 3.
Number 3 is
Dave.
I want more either Captain Saru or Saru in general, and recognizing that it was his leadership that essentially, that got the crew through the mirror universe some of the toughest times of their lives, and that I would like to see that loyalty from the crew represented in some ways. I know Pike is about to walk in and steal the show, and he looks great. I'm way into what they're doing with him, it looks like. But I feel that Saru kind of got hosed a little bit. We talked about this. He was, he became acting captain. Evil Georgiou took that from him, and then Pike is going to take it from him. But I feel like he kind of earned his arc.
Well, just as in, say, Next Generation, for example, we frequently get situations where Riker got to flex his command abilities. I too would like to see like Saru in command of the bridge a little bit.
Right.
That was one of the cool arcs of season 1, where early in season 1 on the Shenzhou, when we see him in the captain's chair for a little bit, briefly, he's nervous, he's unsure of himself. When he has to take command when Lorca is captured by Klingons later in the season, he's very much still doubting himself.
Right.
And that was kind of like when he does become confident in that episode.
Yeah.
And then when we see him...
was he studying, like, past
captains? He was, like, evaluating himself. Like, he wanted the computer to compare him to, like, the most decorated Starfleet captains.
Right.
It was kind of... I don't know. That's kind of silly. But I guess it worked for the episode. But then when we see him take command in the Mirror Universe, that's when he gives, like, that great captain speech. And that's when he really has completed his arc of becoming a confident leader.
Right. And so, yeah, my thing is only that I don't want him to become that confident leader, only to have the show stolen by Pike. I hope that, like, he challenges Pike, honestly, he continues to be the character he grew into. I actually wouldn't also mind if he has, like, Pike comes in and realistically he has a slight drop in that confidence he earned. That'd be okay too. That's something I could see happen, and that he
might be some of that growth and change I was talking about.
Yep. And then he could, we would see what Burnham and other people around him might do to kind of get him back on track. Also, I assume that Pike is not going to be there every 24/7, and so he will still have his opportunities to shine.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think that we'll see it, but I would be disappointed if we just ignore that arc that he went through in season 1.
Yeah, I think I probably mentioned this at least once or twice when we were talking about that at the end of wrapping up season 1. Is the way on the Supergirl TV show, Superman was able to show up, the kind of more marquee character per tradition at least, and not steal the show from her. It was still her show, and ultimately he had to go take a hike. Pike is going to be super fun to see, but I don't want him to steal the show from him.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with Pike kind of taking over the show for a season.
He may for a season.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's pretty likely he goes away for season 3. We don't know, though. We'll find out in a few weeks. Yeah. But
what do we got for your number?
My number
3 or 3.
My number 3 is very, very vague and very simple. Surprises. I want to be surprised. I want the show to throw me for a loop at some point or at multiple points. I want to be. What I think I would have gotten in season 1 if
Fatheree, if you want to just say you want a musical episode.
Well, I don't. They've actually talked about that with some of the actors have said they wanted to do it.
Do they have some singing voices in there? Everybody who's got a singing voice wants to do a musical episode.
I think I would have had like a big surprise when we saw the Mirror Universe in season 1 if Jonathan Frakes hadn't have told everyone about that.
Yeah,
so
we would have, our heads would have collectively imploded.
Yeah, and then like if I hadn't already been speculating for a while, like, oh, I wonder if Lorca is a Mirror Universe infiltrator. Mm-hmm. I still love that reveal, how they built up to it.
Yep.
When he gets out of the agony booth and it's revealed that he was from the Mirror Universe all along. And you know, I was listening to Women at Warp earlier, and they were listening to their assessment of season 1, and one of them was saying that she had written off as fringe theory that he was a mirror from the Mirror Universe. So I was like, that probably was a pretty good reveal to her when it actually did happen, or maybe she was annoyed that fans had already guessed it. I don't know, but yes, it would be kind of cool to have some of those show up again. Especially if they could kind of keep them under wraps. Yeah,
I think they always wanted to play fair and like per like a mystery, like a true whodunit mystery, where the clues are all there for people and nothing happens so out of left field that you're like, this was never indicated in any way before. And then therefore, in the with fandom being what it is, it was hard to get by some of those secrets with them, whether it was the Mirror Universe or Lorca or what's his name? Laurel and Ash. Ash being
we all
Ashvok thing.
Figured that out. Yeah,
Vok. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, the Klingons say it Vok.
Vok. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to get some surprises. And really just have zero clue that they were coming.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I love to be surprised. So that brings us to your number 2.
My number 2. This is actually something in some ways sort of specific. I want more planet-side exploration or
That's a good one.
Off-ship adventuring.
They only come down on a planet, I think, 3 times in the whole of season 1.
There was when Saru went nuts.
Well, yeah, with the Pavo with the Pavans. Well, before that, the first episode, we see Giorgio and Burnham on a planet.
And there was also the Rebels in the Mirror Universe.
Oh yeah, Harlak was the name of that planet. Mm-hmm. And then we see them on Kronos for a little bit at the Orion Embassy.
It's the weird thing is that even though that's for different occasions in what
15 episodes. That's not a lot.
Not a lot though. Yeah, and my overall impression of the show was that it was shipbound. They weren't even particularly on like star bases or anything too often. It was almost always somewhere in the Discovery or occasionally in the Mirror Universe, like throne ship or whatever they called it.
We'll see if the Red Burst force them to go to any planets anywhere.
Yeah,
we might go back to Saru's planet of Kaminar, which I'm told that we will see that world again in season 2.
So yeah, I want to see the characters. I know that I think the actors, I always remember hearing on Next Generation, they liked those episodes that would be anywhere but the sets of the ship. They got to go outside and be outdoors and stuff. So for them, I hope for it.
I have a feeling wherever they go, though, it'll look like Canada.
No, they're going to throw special effects in. I do want to see some weird alien environments. That first episode was really cool looking.
They flew out to Jordan, the Kingdom of Jordan, and shot that there.
Oh, wow. So that's a pricey shoot.
It was like the first episode, you get a bigger budget, you can do.
But there's also you can film relatively simply and CGI in some weird shit. Some big old pterodactyls flying by or whatever weird thing they want to have. But yeah, I want to see the characters put up against the elements a little bit. I want to see weird aliens and weird environments. At least a little bit more than we did in the first season.
Okay.
Number 2, Fatheree?
So my number 2 is going to be, I want to see Captain Pike do some familiar old school captain shit. I want him to be very much not a carbon copy of Jeffrey Hunter's Pike or Shatner's Kirk, but I want him to be very much cut from that cloth.
Right, sort of like the TOS leader.
Yeah, I want him to be the the confident, charismatic guy that the crew can put their faith in.
Well, even the Kelvinverse movies had a Pike that pulled that off. I think that he felt very much like that guy. He was the punch it. If I get captured, was he the one who said yeah, don't leave me. Come, send in an extraction team or whatever. What was his deal in there? I think he wasn't like leave. He wasn't like telling him to leave, right? He said, "Come and get me."
Yeah, when he went over to the Narada.
Yeah. But yeah, Kirk. I always think of the Corbomite maneuver and stuff like that as like kind of quintessentially Kirk's bravado and his confidence and his like kind of ability to kind of play a gambit. I bet we'll get that.
Yeah, or a lot of people don't talk about it, but the episode "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield."
Yep.
With the half white versus the half black.
Yep. When
he actually does the self-destruct sequences on the computer, he's like, "I will blow the ship up, rather than give in to you," and his bluff pays off, and he wins. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it needs to be like that closely related to Kirk, but just like something from that same stripe of that idea, that kind of like JFK inspired '60s idea of the hero. Yeah. Of the do-gooder hero. Yeah. I do want to see that.
What's interesting is that the Kirk version of that is not quite a chisel-jawed straight man. He does have some smarts and some guile about it, and he recognizes that the way people he does a little psychological evaluation, and he plays some mind games.
He's very much like Odysseus, from the Odyssey.
Yeah, there is more than a little trickster hero to Kirk. Yeah. I'm totally into that, and again I think they're gonna bring that.
But I want to see him be like like the type of leader that you can aspire to be like, or like a type of guy that, as the crew, can like cheer for this guy and get in line behind him and follow him. The audience should also have kind of like the same reaction and can cheer for him because of that.
Right. You don't want to think this is some square-jawed stick up his ass.
I don't want him to be Jellicoe. I don't want him to come to the ship and be Jellicoe and piss everyone off. Right. like on the Next Generation, the Chain of Command parts 1 and 2.
And I still kind of like Jellicoe at times. Yeah. When he goes into that conference room and he tells, is it Riker or whoever, he's like, go back and tell him I'm a wild card. You can't keep me, you can't pin me down, and I'm gonna call off the whole negotiations. I was like, oh, that's kind of Kirk-like. I kind of like it. Yeah. Well, it was like a good cop, bad cop.
It's Kissinger and Nixon did that, but
that's exactly who I want more of.
I could pass on that, but
all right, are we ready to hit the number ones?
So lay your number one on us. What do you got? Number one on your wish list.
This is a very specific thing, and I don't know if I'll get it.
But more Klingon boobies?
Because they kind of tease it in a way, but it's like, this is more something like I would like to see Star Trek do, and I don't see too often. I would like a stable couple. Like a romantic couple. Which is to say, say...
we had that in season 1 until someone got their necks fucking broke.
Right, but they were not kind of highlighted so much as a couple. They had moments together, so we knew they were a couple.
They were highlighted more than pretty much any Star Trek couple.
So what I would like to see is a couple that is living together, that kind of almost works in tandem, almost the way that Lois and Clark do, since in stories where they're married. They provide input on what's going on.
We're talking about Superman now.
Yes. Where they provide, if there's something to figure out, they're both going to be putting their heads together on it. You're going to see the two of them in bed thinking things over, saying, hey, do you think something's wrong with the captain? Why'd he make that move today? Hey, thanks for backing me up, or not backing me up, you asshole.
I don't want them to dwell on that too much. No? I kind of feel like that would... Yeah, I don't...
Okay, so let me tell you where I'm coming from. I've always... in the... what was it? Star Trek Beyond. That was the last one, right? Yeah. They, Kirk in his opening captain's log thing talks about, some of the stresses of the 5-year mission, and he talks about crew members hooking up, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, right?
I think that was just like an attempt to get some sexiness on screen.
I think it was that also, but it also kind of, I think, showed his loneliness, because I think he wasn't one of those people in there. But yeah, probably some of that too. But they established that as far back as Kirk's era, that people could get married. We knew there were families on Next Gen, even though that was not a great idea. And there were sometimes long-term couples like Worf and Troy, and they did it more on DS9, but I haven't got to that stuff yet.
Yeah, with Worf and Dax.
And so what I would like to see is the dynamics of a couple, and And it doesn't necessarily... Stamets and Culber were the first one that came to mind, but it could have been Burnham and Tyler. It could have been Lorca and what's her name?
Cornwell.
The Admiral.
Here's what I would rather see instead of that, though. Is I'd rather see them like build up to a relationship that then can like pay off in season 3 or season 4 and be the stable relationship that you're talking about.
That's some long form thinking. I would be okay with that. And I don't know if like Culber is like specifically going to be back this season in some form. I think he probably is, based on kind of rumors and innuendo.
Yeah, I think we just saw him in that like little promotional sizzle reel we were watching earlier.
But I think what I'd like to see is a couple where there's still sparks. I don't want them to be a boring monolithic thing. I want them to fight over stuff. I want them to be a energetic.
You want Keiko
couple.
and Miles?
Probably
Miles.
Listen, Keiko got something of a bad rap.
I like Keiko. Keiko gets too much hate.
Yeah. But I think she did seem like she was like a little bit of the frowny tutter.
She could have been written better.
She could have been written better. I feel like the writing is maybe better up to that now than it was then. And so part of what me wanting to see Culber and what Stamets together isn't a generic, I hope there's a gay couple. I want to see a good couple. I want to see a couple that interacts in an interesting way.
Okay.
So that is my number one spot.
Okay, and my number one, and I was tempted to steal your number one from last year, but I can't because I know it'll have to be my number one for every time we're doing this.
Yes.
But I want to see traditional Star Trek story concepts, but told in a new way.
The Grant Morrison new X-Men of Discovery.
I want to see like the type of thing Star Trek is known for, the social justice, the science fiction, the allegories. I want to see that, but I want to see it be the concepts that maybe are more relevant today that wouldn't have been in previous iterations of Star Trek. I want to see things told and see things tackled and approached from different angles than we've seen before. I'm okay with them doing like a little bit more serialized nature storytelling than what we're used to, but I want Star Trek Discovery to be allowed the same freedoms that some of the other shows got, where they could do like really weird stuff that hadn't been done before. Whereas DS9 was set on a space station, Voyager was a ship stranded on the other end of the galaxy. People who say Discovery doesn't feel like Star Trek, or that it's too unconventional compared to the past shows. I think some of that criticism isn't really giving the show enough freedom to go do its own thing. And as long as it adheres to the Star Trek values, what we talked about of the combination of rationality and empathy winning the day, as long as it does that, I want it to do new and different things that I haven't seen in Star Trek before. Right. It can have those same story concepts, right, where it can talk about relevant issues about the world today in this future setting.
Well, here's a random one that I feel like a lot of people have probably experienced in the last few years, which is that something that I bet you haven't, because you've always looked on the United States as having been built on a lot of hypocrisy and
slavery and imperialism,
right? And that like just because we didn't see slavery in our time does not mean that its tenets did not sneak through with Jim Crow and a million other laws that are meant to enforce racism and classism. But I think because of the spike in racism and xenophobia in the last few years, and the fact that it seems like it's really pretty well accepted, has led to this creepy thing, I think, for a lot of us, maybe more for me, I'm a little more pie in the sky, of like, oh, there's a creeping underbelly to the America that I thought we were a little more past than we were, or a lot more past. And I think, I don't want the Federation to be revealed to be a sham, but there may be a story to be told there about, that it's ideal, that it's having a tough time living up to its ideals, or it overshot them, and it can't quite get there. That's a random example. I just mean that there is a lot of stories to reflect on about things that are going on right now.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd be down for that. I know that was like super vague, and even like my long explanation for that, I still didn't get anything super specific.
Do you...
But-
you're not saying just that you would like to see... Because at first I thought you were saying almost that you wanted more like the traditional TOS, TNG... I'm going to call them morality plays, and without meaning it in a negative way. Like a TNG morality play. But I think what you're saying is, as long as they adhere to, like, as long as they're working within that framework where morality is considered, you don't need it to be like a standalone episode. It could be the theme of the season, or the theme of a few episodes, or it could come together in different ways. It could even be a single scene that reflects that. Am I getting that right? As long as you're thinking that, as long as you feel that it represents the ethics of the show.
Yeah.
Is that vaguely in the in the ballpark? Because I'm all about that, and I do think that if they were to, part of what I like about the Orville warts and all is that it is like, in some ways, a knockoff, like a blue-collary kind of knockoff of TOS and TNG, where I get those complete standalone episodes. But I don't think Disco should be trying for that. I do kind of want the somewhat more standalone episodes because I like that structure, but I don't want it to mimic. I think it, like, if it did that, it would be kind of a waste.
I don't want any Star Trek show to be mimicking anything. I don't want
it shouldn't be too nostalgic.
Yeah, and I want
for itself.
Each show to be its own different and unique thing, and I think every show needs to be allowed that freedom.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. I think these are pretty good lists, and also have a reasonable, like our first list, have a reasonably decent chance of being fulfilled.
Yeah, so we had one overlap.
Like 2 overlaps, I think.
We both
segued.
wanted more classic aliens,
right?
And then we kind of had the same thing. You want a magical bridge. I want more from the support staff.
That's what I was thinking.
We're going to count that as the same thing?
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, so we have 18 things we want to see in the season.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point we can reevaluate
it's our totemic number.
And see what happens after we've watched these 14 episodes.
Yeah, we have to do it.
But thank all of you for checking this out, and be sure to comment and let us know what do you hope to see.
What are your own hopes and dreams?
Yeah, if you want, give us a top 10 list yourself, or if you're too lazy to come up with 10, just
5 will be acceptable, but any less will be frowned
just
upon.
spit them out. Let us know.
Yeah,
and we've been doing podcast episodes on the first and third Sunday of every month. Mm-hmm. That will no longer be the case going forward. We're about to become a weekly podcast. Mm-hmm. We'll still be on Sunday nights.
Yep.
Discovery is going to air on Thursdays starting the 17th. And then we'll be talking about each episode a few days later on the following Sunday.
Right.
And so we're going to do 14 weeks straight, covering all 14 Season 2 episodes. We're going to do a 15th one after that, where we just talk about like the entire Season 2 overall.
It's crazy to think that we're just about to be hitting that, be inundated with Star Trek.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it.
We're about to go from 52 podcasts to 67? Yeah, 67?
I can't do math.
Yeah,
sure.
So in April we'll be at 67. We still got to talk about these fucking movies. And there might be a Picard show in the fall.
Yeah. Well, we'll do what we can.
Yeah. So 2019 looks like it's going to be a busy year for Tex-Trek.
Yeah.
So we're going to get ready for that.
I'm hyped.
We will next be talking to you about the first episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 2 called Brothers.
We're going to get...
Or is it Brothers or Brother? I think it's just Brother, singular.
It's about Spock. I don't know anything, but I know that it's about Spock.
Well, maybe someone else has a brother.
I think it probably has multiple meanings. I think it probably is how he is... So, what is he, the half-brother? Is that what you call him? Step-brother?
Well, no, foster brother.
Foster brother for Burnham. But yes, I suspect it will have a double meaning and be about more, too. But mostly I'm just ready to get silly for Tilly.
Yeah, hashtag silly for Tilly.
Always.
So, until then, though, when will that be? 17, 18, 19, 20? That'll be January 20th. Mm-hmm. It's a Sunday. So, January 20th, be sure to check out the next Star Trek the next Tex-Trek podcast, we will be talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as always, until then, live long and prosper, y'all. Thank all of you so much for checking out this installment of Tex-Trek. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like our YouTube videos and subscribe to our channel. Audio-only version of episodes are available at our website, www.tex-trek.com. Please check out our site, especially if you just want an audio-only podcast. We have that available for you. Y'all can also keep up with us online. You can follow us on Twitter at TXTrek, or you can check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tex-trek. Please, by all means, let us know what you think by dropping a comment anywhere you see fit. We definitely want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you liked and what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see differently going forward. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I can be reached at fathereeactual@tex-trek.com. Thank all y'all again. Take care.